Another day, another top build breakthrough. That's the reference you'll get a bit later, but for today, hello everyone, and today we are considering this Justice top build. Unlike the previous top builds, it's actually a very strong, a very competitive decklist that I used while playing the last season and reaching top 1. So yeah, why Justice? First of all, that's Justice because it deals damage by itself, and the decklist is based on keyword deal. For real though, if you take a look at all of those cards, most of them are deal, 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 also some additional deal, and Onion Sun has some tentacles that also deal, so yeah, that's pretty much a deal damage decklist. So, what is this build? First of all, the artifacts are power and prosperity, because it's literally a justice that dates from 2018, and that where the artifacts are used in there. Nothing changed much, because prosperity is good against some aggressive decks, and it's still good. And as for power, yeah, it got a bit nerfed for these types of decks, as I've mentioned before, but Justice is a deck that can play more than 12 turns, more than 16 turns, so power is also a nice option in here. Of course, you can try Seedlings, or you can try maybe Parachutism. I guess it's called like that, and yeah, try this instead of power, but my choice is power, and I love this artifact, and that's why I run it. So the build is, as I mentioned before, deal, 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 deal. That's pretty obvious cards that deal damage, and yeah, they are must-have cards. So the second card in here is So Sorry. This card is extremely strong because it generates you some free resources. Well, not free, but very cheap resources that you can play right away, and then trade off even 8th drop using Caesar, using Vulcan, together with trade by Doodlebog. So that's also nice. This also, I have politicians in here. Well, they are like not the most obvious choice, but they are fine, and they are performing extremely well. So I decided to leave them in here, but of course you can change them. I don't know with what, I can't tell you right away, but I'd probably go for maybe the third Caesar Dancer, or even Found Pet combination. Yeah, I had a decklist like this with Found Pet, just like in 2018, but it didn't turn out to be that good, so I just swapped Found Pets with some additional deal cards, and Politician is exactly one of those cards. So Suzy is pretty obvious pick. It's a really strong card that is must-have against many ramp decks, as you may call them. Well, actually that's just a legend spam, not a ramp, because ramp doesn't exist. Coffee Man is a very good, solid card that can win you games against aggressive decks, or just can let you some optional play. For instance, like silencing your paralyzed monster against patience, especially old patience. Elder Puzzler is also a questionable card, but it's an 8 gold dude that can deal 2 damage, and combined with Politician it can deal 8 damage, which is extremely good. And you'll watch, so long as you watch me playing this deck a bit later, you'll notice that this deck has tons and tons of different plays in one turn. So yeah, that's a really cool card. And it's just a very statted body that has an additional effect, so why not? Toriel is also a pretty obvious pick. It can just let you survive against some heroine or some cakes as well. And yeah, playing Toriel is usually a very nice way to maintain your board pressure and to reduce your opponent's board pressure, as well as just dealing additional damage in the future, which can help you win the game. Usually when your opponent plays the heroine, you have a board, you just throw in Toriel, he can't do anything with your board, and he just spent 16 gold on nothing, you just hit his face and win the game like this. That's why I don't have any heroine removals, as you can see, except for maybe this card. Yeah, I'll just skip this obvious legendary picks, because it's Justice, it's Keyboard Zeal once again, so these ones are pretty obvious. But speaking about Omega Flower, it's really a very interesting choice. Yeah, that's the DT card that used to be played in this type of deck in 2018. That's why I picked it instead of any other determination cards. But of course, when you take a look at here, you can just run Aote or maybe even Kara. It's not the worst pick here. Also, you can just put in the Heroine or maybe even Vessel. Vessel is also a nice option in here. It can give you a lot of additional resources. And this deck happens to play on Fatigue as well. But I guess it's enough resources to win like most of the control decks on the Fatigue. Except for Spiders. I mean Spider Perseverance. And except for probably some very strange determination control build that can just lose during the mid game or extremely annihilate you during the late game, but that doesn't matter much. Oh, and yes, the card I run and the card I really enjoy is Sonyan Sun. To be honest, it's pretty much overpowered for now, especially considering you have no good mid drops, except for this maybe. So yeah, Onion Sun is really a strong card that can trade off 2 mid drops together with its tentacles, and considering some additional dealing damage, it can trade the whole board and just hit your opponent's face for 8 or 9 if it's buffed from power. So yeah, it's a very solid card, and it's a very solid pick. What I'd like to mention is the reason why this suddenly became so oppressive and so powerful. That's because, as I've mentioned before, you don't have enough solid mid drops. If you're playing against a Tempo Zoo deck, you can just show him a strafe and he probably concedes, because he has no solid follow-up. If you're playing against some, let's imagine that dogs are playable, you're playing against some dogs, he plays some 5th drop, you play Vulcan Caesar or Fuku Caesar or Fuku Vulcan and some additional like 1 damage if you take it from somewhere, and your opponent also concedes straight away because he doesn't have anything to like follow up. So yeah, the reason why this is playable, because there are no good mid drops and the mid decks are pretty much dead. Many people consider this a control build, but they are absolute potatoes in terms of game design and game balance as well, because that's obviously a mid-range build. It can even finish the game on turn 8 if you like have a good hand and just manage to counter your opponent that hard to actually just kill him before he goes into a mid-game scenario. So yeah, this decklist is pretty much about relying on cards that your opponent plays and dealing with them and winning the game by this. Okay, that's all I wanted to tell you about this deck build. For now, let's just move on to some ranked games, and let's just take a look how to play this deck. Well, I managed to find the game, and I'm playing against a legendary player. So how do you usually mulligan using this deck? You want to leave some deal damage cards that are not strafe, that's pretty obvious, And this hand is pretty decent while playing this deck, because it lets you just skip and play Onion Sun. Or instead deal with your opponent's cards, if he has any of them. Yeah, well, that's an interesting opening. I don't have any more deal damage cards. Wow. He has a very interesting deck list. Okay, I can just go for this one. How you want to play this deck? You want to play as many cards as you actually can when you are given such opportunity, and trade as many cards as you can while also you're given such opportunity. For now, well, an easy one. My opponent is playing some inflation deck. If he has, wow, that's wow. It's just wow. Okay, and I just going for this play. As you can notice, So Sorry gets additional stats from power, and he becomes 5 gold, 5/6, which is really strong. My opponent just plays some statted monsters, and the stats are gained from inflation, so I can just go for some silence probably, or just play another So Sorry. Yeah, that's also a good play, considering I have Toriel the next turn, and I can just get some additional board pressure and reduce his pressure as well. Well, that's some pieces probably. Well, a very strange choice, but IDK, maybe it's the strongest deck imaginable. Here you can see how strafe works and why it's in here, because it can give you a pretty easy trade. And it can give you a pretty easy removal as well, especially against such kind of decks. So here it's a very obvious play. I just don't know what I want to remove. I'll probably go for this play. I think that leaving a 3/3 is better than a 2/4, considering he can have some buffs in his deck. And as you may notice, the real difference between this deck and some control deck is we keep hitting his face. Oh, by the way, the best top deck imaginable, because now we'll just remove this card straight away, and he can't do us anything with this. Oh, maybe that's some strange Muffet spam. I didn't think of this option. Well, just a very strange build. I just go for this play, and I can already set up Little on turn 11. Yes, that's the difference between a control deck and mid-range deck. You can control your opponent's board, but at the same time you deal enough damage to end this game on turn like 10, 11, sometimes even on the 7th turn, because you simply have enough face damage. So after some 10 minutes in the queue, I managed to find the game, and I'm playing against some determination. I really hope that's not a lamp spam determination, because the main weakness of this deck is actually a lamp spam determination. Even despite the fact that you have enough deal damage to remove all those lamps, once you have actually run out of... Yeah, that's probably a lamp spam. That's not that good, to be honest. I think I can just... Can I go for a 50-50 play in here? Yeah, I think that's needed. I need to... Well, that's not that bad as well. Once you run out of your strafes and some other deal damage cards, it's really bad for you. By the way, what's in here? Of course, Lava Can. because you can't just deal with those infinite lamps and win the game by this. Yeah. Okay, what do we have here? I actually went second, so I can go for this play and just... Nah, I just want to do this. You'll probably just play some lamps for now, and that's not that bad for me. How to win? Wow, he goes for this strange play. That's very bad for him, because I have some scissor. So how to win this game? You have to set up very good strafes, your opponent has to bot deck his Call of the Graves, and your opponent has to just throw out all of his politics bear, and then you are definitely in a winning situation, because he doesn't have much to do to you. So yeah, that's a very obvious one. I just go here, and just play an Elder Puzzler, who can trade off everything together with his passive. Okay, I believe this one is going to be a winning game against this dude playing this type of deck, but I'm not really sure about that yet. I'm going for this play. The thing is, your opponent can do a real tempo swing, or just a swing, because it's not like that tempo, but he can just Call of the Grave and then an ordinary crease in there, which means you don't have that much cards to deal with this, because you can't break through the lamps. And if the crease survives, then he has some Papyrus or Casual Undyne for a lot of damage to your face, and that usually ends not that good for you. Well, for now though, that's an easy trade. So, in here we have 7 plus 4, which is 11, plus 6, which is 17. 17 minus 6. Okay, we go like this. I probably have one off to trade everything in here, but I'll go for this play anyways. Yeah, I'll just trade. I guess I'll trade in here, because I don't want to rely on this guy. He's set, he's nerfed, he's day gold, so I don't believe him that much. So yeah, I have strafe against some of his Call of the Grave lamps, and I can clear that immediately using Jivil. And I have Jivil for, or I have Jivil for an additional wave of his lamps. So yeah, 2 Call of the Graves are already like are not that much of trouble. So I guess I just hit his face, run, he maybe plays Yuzi if it's needed. Well, what's in here? Rock. Ah, I see. Yeah, that's like it's usually happens. Okay, I probably just go for trade in here and double Elder Puzzler. Why not? Yeah, that's probably a good play. The worst scenario if it hits the rock twice. Yeah, that's the worst scenario possible. But not that scary. Also, the most, like, the worst matchup for this deck, together with this lamp spam, is probably cake spam, because surprisingly cake spam is just not that easy to remove, and all those cards are not that easy to remove, so you end up having no additional single target removals, and he just spams cakes using Ice Replica and wins you on fatigue with his resources, and you don't have much to do with this. So what are we gonna do in here? Well, I think I'm going for this play. Yeah, I probably go for this one. I just want to remove his additional life and to miss my passive. Yeah, of course. You just want to remove his additional life in case he has some very strong finisher, so you can finish him first. That's how the deck works, as I've mentioned before, because that's a mid-range, and you don't necessarily have to wait until the fatigue to finish the game. Now what are you going to do, dude? Yeah, let's spin some casino slots. Well, he's not that strong, so yeah, we actually won in a very unpleasant matchup. But anyways, this exact matchup is, I guess, something like 40 to 60. Of course, not for you. Yeah, 60 for determination, 60% to win the game for determination, and 40% for you to win this game. But that all depends on your starting hand, on your opponent's starting hand, and it can just turn into a 100 to 0 for you, because you can just find all the strafes, all the deal damage, and you can just top deck some Elder Puzzler when it's really needed, and that usually brings you the victory. So yeah, I guess 2 games against not Ruby players is enough for this decklist. Again, I can show you the history. I didn't play much. Oh yeah, okay. I did play much using this deck. I can tell you a bit about those losses. Well, that's pretty obvious how I lost to these strongest players. Yeah, that's basically the same in here, because determination can really have some very strong starting hands with 3 lamps and just spamming and just continue spamming lamps. Also, some of these opponents for sure run some buckets, snail buckets. Yeah, that's how they are called, meaning it's extremely difficult for me to trade this off. And some of them even run knives, meaning I can't benefit from having very strong monsters on my board, because they can just go for straight away removal, and it's too difficult for me to kill them in the future. And this guy is a legendary dude who runs a very strong combination of cards, such as Ralze into Suns, and I didn't have silence, so I just lost straight away after that play. Yeah, a very interesting decklist, legendary guy, so yeah, don't even dare facing him. And speaking about the next top build, I don't know what's going to be. It will probably be some patience, as you may have noticed, but it didn't go that well for a top build. So maybe that will be patience, maybe that will be a surprise and some perseverance. I don't even know about that. So yeah, I guess hold on for some more top builds. Stay with me and subscribe. Yeah, just subscribe and leave a like. I'm working on some other top builds right now, and the new top build will probably be tomorrow or maybe a day later. So love you all, guys. Stay for more videos. Goodbye.